Welcome to the Andy Social Podcast. My name is Andy and I am whispering from my hotel room in Perth. The reason why I'm whispering is that it's 10 to 1 in the morning and it feels like the walls are made of paper, or at least my voice is echoing quite a bit in this room. So I'm just being on the safe side and keeping very quiet. So I won't spend a lot of time yapping. Thank goodness you're saying to yourselves. This episode is one that I have literally just finished recording only a few moments ago, and it is with Alex Canion, or Canion. I should check with Alex how you pronounce his surname. I'll say it's Canion. Alex of Voyager. If you're not familiar with Voyager, I strongly recommend you check them out. I'm going to have links on the show notes over at andysocial.net or andydowling.net, depending on what your preference is of how you like to tap the keyboard to get to the website. All the show notes will be there for this episode. You can check out Voyager via Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all the typical social media outlets, but you can also go to voyager-australia.com and you'll be able to find a whole heap of info on the band. They've got a new album coming out called Ghost Mile, which is currently, as we speak, on pre-order. So you can pre-order that through Pledge Music. I got to listen to a little bit of the second master of the new album in the car with Alex, and it sounds really cool. So I didn't have a lot of an opportunity to take a lot of it in, but from what I heard, it sounded pretty cool, and I think Voyager fans will not be disappointed. You can actually see they've already released one song and video clip from the album so far, so it's definitely on the right track as far as meeting the expectations of prior Voyager albums, that's for sure. So anyway, this was recorded in Alex's car. We met up late tonight in Perth. I'd literally just flown in and went out to the Rosemount Hotel to meet up with Alex, and we jumped into his car and just stared at an empty car park while we chatted away. I am extremely tired because Perth is 3 hours behind Sydney. So in Sydney, it will be 10 to 4 in the morning. So I'm a little bit spaced out, and hopefully don't sound too spaced out in this in this podcast episode. But anyway, enough of all of this yapping. We'll leave that for the episode itself. Alex is an amazing musician and a really, really cool guy. There's a lot of similarities between himself and I with, I think, just his views on everything, and the way that he lives his life is quite, for me, inspiring, because it's certainly a similar path to what I've been trying to do for a while now, and he's doing a lot of great things. So if you do enjoy this episode, please reach out to Alex and let him know that you liked it. Okay, enough. Let's get into this episode with Alex from Voyager. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well, considering we're kind of in maybe the most shady location to film a podcast ever.
What suburb are we in?
I'm feeling like you're somewhat ill-equipped for this session, given that you've just flown in from Sydney not half an hour ago.
Well, we're in a part of Perth, outside the Rosemount, and
we're in North Perth.
North Perth, okay. And we're sitting in your car because the pub was way too loud, and we're just staring at a Michael's Healthcare chemist sign, and there's a couple of stray trolleys which always look suspicious on their own, just sitting there.
Yeah, this is we're facing the North Perth Plaza, which is a pretty old school shopping centre plaza type deal. I think there's an IGA in there, there's a Baker's Delight at the very end, and there's a mum and pa's kind of delicatessen in the middle of it there, which you'll find lots of old school people just kind of sitting around in the daytime.
I was waiting for almost the origins of this plaza, the way that you walked into that. That's quite good.
I'm sure that this car park that we're looking at here has seen its fair share of violence, and
it does look like a place where a lot of blood's hit the floor.
Some old school kind of greaser rumbles. like The Outsiders or something, back in back in the 60s.
Back in the day. Anyway, moving along. You've been busy.
Yeah, I've been very busy. It's been a very busy year.
I'm just looking at your car stereo, and there's a new Voyager song playing on the stereo there. Very quiet. Can't hear it.
You can't hear it at all.
No.
Well, I didn't want to be rude.
No, that's right. So the album's done.
The album is done. Yeah. We made some final mix changes, and before I came out tonight, I burnt this CD, and this is the second master edit.
Right.
So just when you think that we're all done with it, and spinning the album, which is called Ghost Mile for those playing at home, the album I'm getting used to has now been slightly changed, and I'm at that point where I don't know whether you ever do this when you're doing the albums. Like you listen to the songs so much in the demo phase, and then finally you get the master back, and you kind of almost. I don't want to hit the point where I don't want to listen to the finished product because I'm already sick of the songs because I've listened to it in the demo phase so much, and you need to make the most of the final finished product and the awesome version of it, the awesome production version of it.
I think one thing that I always struggled with, especially years ago, is that we would sit on demos for so long, and so I would be learning my parts based off the demos, and there would be certain little arrangements or even some of the guitar that Tim was doing, these certain licks and whatnot, and I'd get so used to it, and you get the goosebumps, you're like, oh, this sounds amazing, and then we go in and actually properly record it and start putting it all together, and a decision's made where it's like, oh, that's shit, and get rid of it, and then I listen to the next version or whatnot, and it's completely gone, and I'm heartbroken. I'm like, oh, this is not what I've gotten used to, and but eventually, by the time, and I mean, you've been through this as well, by the time it's out there and it's completely done, you eventually forget about those demos. They're long gone in the past, and I try to. Well, I don't delete them because I can't delete anything, but I try and remove them from arm's reach, so I never listen to them again.
It is tough because there's even for me, it's notes or even nuances on a drum kit that will poke out to me, or that I'll love in the demo phase, and for whatever reason, it doesn't end up on the final finished product, and it really gets me down.
Yeah.
Or there's certain idiosyncratic elements of a demo that don't make it to the final product, and I kind of can't. You kind of have to reel it in a little bit for yourself. You're like, no, it's the smallest thing. No one knows. No one would care about it. You would never know. Oh, I really feel that third tom should have been hit in that one gap where you're so used to hearing it over and over. But
I guess you're always the most critical. Of your own thing, your own product, or your own whatever it is, your own worst enemy. So for anybody else, they listen to it and they go, "Oh, that sounds amazing." And I guess that's what it all boils down to. It's sort of like playing live as well, where you can have the shittest show in the world, and then someone comes up to you and says, "That was the best I've ever seen of you guys." I don't know. Well, I think for us, years and years ago, it was the amount of alcohol we consumed that dictated how much people enjoyed the show, which was absolutely horrible because they were the loosest shows. So musically, we sounded like balls, but we're obviously loose enough that we were having so much fun on stage. So visually, it looked really good. And so people were like, oh, that's amazing. And then when we started to we stopped being idiots and, calm down on the amount of booze we're drinking. And so we started playing really well. So we walk off stage and go, oh man, we just smashed that. Like just everything just fell into place. Tight. It was a great performance, really, really good. And someone comes up and goes, "It was good, yeah, but it's not as good as that time I saw you guys a few years back when you're at this place, blah blah." And you're thinking, "Oh man, that show, like we were wasted.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Oh, it was disgusting." But I guess people look at it from a completely different angle. They're a lot of the time, live's different, but I guess even with like music in general, people are listening to it and associating it with different things. So there's a nostalgia thing that's attached to music. There's also environments where you're listening to stuff for the first time. So if it's live, obviously the setting, the atmosphere, who you're with, and I guess how much alcohol you've drunk as well. But also listening to a new album and then that album gelling and growing and whatnot over time, where you are in your life, if you're going through whatever dramas, or you're going through some changes, or you're living in a particular place, or you're sharing that time with particular people, then it's really sort of embeds in the music. That's why people get so passionate. You release a new album, people say, oh yeah, no, the album's really good, but it's not as good as your last album, or your album's three albums ago, or whatever it is. But then you give that new album another 4 years, and then suddenly people say, well, that's your best album.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's why people are so fervent on their opinions of particular albums that, objectively might not be particularly great, but they're the soundtrack to your memories and your childhood.
Yeah.
This has been coming up a lot, actually, and I'm pretty sure I read Doug Skeen from Hermina. He kind of wrote things like this, and we were kind of on Facebook. There was the mashup of all the 90s hits now that are like 20 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really share his sentiment on this, that I really actually like those songs. And I don't know whether it's because I feel like as an adult listening to those, I would not have... I mean, there's no way I'd get into the Spice Girls if I was hearing them for the first time as a 28-year-old guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But they were such a huge part of the mid to late 90s when I was growing up that, I had a massive crush on Ginger Spice.
Ginger Spice.
She was my favorite. And so I've got all these just really like amazing memories tied in with that kind of music, them and the Cause, and even the bands that I didn't really like say Backstreet Boys or TLC and stuff like that. I still really enjoy listening to that music because it reminds me of that period of time, and which is why all the generations that came before us, they were always like, back in my day.
Yeah,
this is the process of becoming older and having foresight.
And I'm sure at the time when that music was out in the 90s, you probably wouldn't have really thought much of it. And even like for me, listening to that stuff, I couldn't stand it. But you certainly grow softer to a lot of that stuff as years go on. As you said, like whatever's happening in that time and the memories that you have and whatnot, it's a bit of a nostalgic sort of moment to go back and listen to that stuff.
Let's talk about this, because this is probably be interesting from your perspective. So a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I got into John Farnham. And this is your...
Are we going down this rabbit hole? All right,
absolutely. I'd love to. Because what happened was I was on YouTube and I came across... I mean, everyone knows The Voice, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Absolute classic song. I know that's under some contention with you at the moment because of how many times it's been covered. As a standalone song, I have to say this. I have to stick up with the song. It's a fucking great song.
It is a good song.
It's an absolute inspirational classic, right?
Yep.
But I somehow came across Whispering Jack on YouTube.
Yep.
And I just streamed it from start to finish. And I was like, my God, this is just such a good album. Coincidentally, I Googled more because I needed to find out more about John Farnham, because I knew him. He's so intrinsically Australian in so many ways. And everyone knows about him, but I just, as a musician, I needed to kind of get to know him a little bit better.
Yep.
And he happened to be playing, that was the year he was touring Whispering Jack from start to finish.
Yes. Yep.
And he was playing in Perth that night. And I was like, I can't believe this. Because the joke is that he's always doing a reunion tour, right?
Yeah,
he's always touring and coming back. I feel that I really connected with Whispering Jack because subconsciously I'd heard all the classics from that album and I didn't even realize it. But there's a certain sound about it that reminds me of my earliest childhood, and it brings back memories of Australiana around that time and even in the 80s. And it just struck a chord with me. It's so good, but it's kind of almost it's before my time. Yeah. But I still connected with it because of the samples and the sounds and the style of production.
Yeah.
And just memories that I had of seeing, his ads on TV when he was coming around to touring.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where, because because he's been such a staple part of Australian culture that even for me, like I was still pretty young when those albums were coming out, so I didn't appreciate it or was able to live in that moment. But the music just sort of hangs around for so long, and even now, like You're the Voice is played everywhere, but a lot of his hits are played all the time. So I think even for people that are younger than us would still have Farnsey as part of the Australian culture. It's still as vibrant now as what it was in the 80s. It's incredible. But I'm very pleased to know that you've discovered
Old mate Farnsey in a whole new way.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think what makes it so amazing is that it's not often that someone of that caliber just hits the mainstream in such a huge way. Like, I mean, objectively, he's an incredible singer and an incredible talent.
Yep.
Like he's just got everything. He's got X factor dripping out of the dude, and he's an old guy now, right? He's an older dude. He's in his 70s.
No,
late 60s.
I think mid 60s. But I mean, the weird thing about it, the most incredible thing about it is, I mean, I can't remember the last time I saw him. It would have been probably just over a year ago. It was the end of 2015 in Melbourne, and he was as good as he was in the 80s.
Yeah, wow.
And I'd seen him on and off over the years, and ups and downs, and I've seen a couple of things on TV where he's tried to sing You're the Voice and he was really struggling to hit those high notes, and I don't know what's happened.
Was that a footy final or something? Or was that Meatloaf?
No, that was definitely Meatloaf. That was definitely Meatloaf. I think he struggled to breathe, let alone sing.
Oh God,
that was a bad one. But I think he lost a lot of weight as well at one point, and I think that might have helped with it. But like all of us in the band went because we were playing in Melbourne the night before, so we stayed an extra night to go and see Farnsey, and because we did a whole tour based off John Farnham.
That's right. Yeah, that was good.
It was absolutely ridiculous. Great. But and we all stood there and our mouths were on the floor. We were not expecting this, and he was almost prancing around the stage, smashing these notes and just throwing his mic around and just like with no care in the world whatsoever. And it was just absolutely incredible that he could still hit these notes and still sing. Like he was just
got a monster diaphragm, doesn't he? It's just insane.
Incredible. And not just singing the song straight. He was playing around with it. He was going in and out, and he was really sort of
just vocal dexterity.
Oh, some great improv happening. It was incredible. But
tenor prowess.
And it's like I've noticed this with a lot of the got to not use this word, but there's a lot of nostalgic bands that are going around at the moment, and they're releasing new music, which is why I hate using that word. But a lot of bands that had their sort of heyday in the 80s and the 70s that are still touring now, and they do the circuit. And
who do you mean? Who are you thinking of?
Well, Icehouse is one.
Are you wearing an Icehouse shirt?
I actually am. I didn't even mean that, but yeah, I am.
That's rad because they're one of. I actually recently, I guess, in the last 2 or 3 years, got into them as well. And we should talk about them after your point. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Icehouse, 1927. I think, who else is there? MySex. There's a few guys that are still doing the circuit at the moment, and they're just. I mean, I saw Icehouse about a year ago, and they were incredible. Probably one of the best live shows I've ever seen, musicianship-wise. It was ridiculously good.
Is Michael Painter still playing with them?
Yes, and he's
the guy that sings Man of Colour.
And
Jesus H. Christ.
That's in my favourites on YouTube. I keep going back to it all the time. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
That's I heard that. I saw that on YouTube, and I'm like, you're making a mockery of like how easily you're hitting these notes. I mean, it's not for everyone. I've talked to Icehouse fans, and they're like, "No, man, didn't like it because
Ivor's got to sing it."
Yeah, I mean, but he's got such a way more reserved, almost spoken word style compared to Michael Painter, who I think he was in The Voice or something, wasn't he? I mean, he's total. It could be male diva, like
but I mean,
Devo.
But he's an incredible musician, like multi-talented. I mean, the guy is just I mean, on stage, he will switch between keys, guitar, and then obviously he's singing as well.
Yeah, I think
And
he
I'm
does
sure he can-
some kind of production lessons in Melbourne or something. isn't he?
Yeah, he's one talented guy, and I think he's pretty young as well. So I sort of go, oh man,
That prick is like super musically talented and like model good looks.
just playing in this awesome.
He's probably
band.
shredded.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, that's right.
He grates cheese on his abs.
Oh well, when the audience is filled with a bunch of cougars, I mean,
Man.
I don't envy him in that sense. He'll probably get catcalled. Well, not catcalled. What's
You would, yeah.
Take your
Cougar
shirt
called.
off.
Ow! Take your shirt off, mate.
Oh yeah. That's a lady saying it. As
Yeah,
well.
it's a lady. Yeah.
Shout with your abs.
But yeah, man, Icehouse is incredible. So
Man.
you just discovered them recently.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think what it was is I worked for I did a radio show called Your Scene a couple of years back with actually the booking agent for the Australian booking agent for Voyager, Beardfoot, they're called. Josh is his name. We did a local music show, a radio show.
Yep.
And then because it was a community radio station, they'd have like a playlist kind of playing before and after shows.
Yep.
So we'd
And you know what? Just before I had that testy blowout, I was thinking, that's why you've got that radio voice. And then I just did that.
that's right.
Yeah. No, sorry. Please
You
continue.
can turn it on. You can kind of turn it off a little bit. As well. Yeah. So they'd have a playlist going, and I remember listening to this station one time, and Electric Blue comes on.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd really, apart from hearing, Lottery Skyworks, and then they'd play that, and We Built This City on Rock and Roll and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just driving and heard it, and I just couldn't believe how such an amazing song had just slipped under my radar for so long. And it's just got a great beat. It's the video clip is amazing, purely on mullet points.
Yeah. There's some.
It's
sweet mullet
incredible.
action. Yeah, I know. I keep thinking eventually when I cut my hair, I'll do a mullet for a bit. I think it's gonna be the most disgusting looking mullet. But
You should go back to. I'm pretty sure I've seen a childhood picture of you where the rest of your head was shaved except for your fringe. You were one of those kids.
yeah, unfortunately, that was.
They
the
were
90s
they were
for
always
me.
the bullies. As far
No,
as I was concerned.
I think I was just trying to fit in. So that's Central Queensland for you. That's I was
You're a
definitely
street urchin.
I was definitely a bogan kid. That was there was some dark times. There was some dark times hair wise, far out. And then trying to grow that thing out, and then going to an undercut, and
Wow.
doing the whole shaved thing under.
Dude, you'd be completely aligned with what is cool right now.
What having the
having an undercut.
Well, if I was,
You'd be like Jason Newsted in 1988, only right now. And I remember seeing that. You see like the old footage of Metallica, and you're like, I remember him back in maybe the early 2000s. You're like, what were they thinking with their hair? Like, what's going on there?
yeah,
Now, neck minute,
that's
give it 10, 15 years, and it's all the rage again.
it all comes back. It all comes back full circle. But I mean, Metallica is another good example. But going back to Icehouse, it's funny when you hear songs over and over and over and over again over the years, and you're so desensitized to that song. It becomes so sterile. You don't even really acknowledge that it's there. It's this breathing thing, this piece of music, and it's only when you're lucky enough to be in a certain position or an environment that's a little bit unique and fresh that gives you enough clarity to sort of listen to that song from a different perspective, that you sort of, as you said, you listen to it and go, wow, this is actually a really, really good song. This is incredible. But a lot of the time, and because these songs get beaten to death on radio or anywhere, like, I mean, I use Metallica because I grew up obsessed with Metallica, but I overplayed them so bad. And
I think we all have.
and
You need a break from Metallica, and then you come back maybe 5 years after, and you're like,
you need a long,
fuck yeah, I love it.
you need a long period of time. And
Metallica moratorium.
yeah, and you listen to a song, you go, I understand why people rave on about how good this band is. And I remember now. I remember, and you sort of then you can remember sort of earlier memories of when you first heard these songs and you were trying to understand what music was all about, and you go, oh my God, I never knew a guitar could sound like that, or I never knew that, you know, what a guitar solo was, or double kick pedals, all that sort of stuff. But I guess that's the amazing thing about music, is that it links into certain things, and the mind's such a complex thing anyway that you can brush over things very quickly, and if something's overplayed, you lose track of it very quickly. So and going back to You're the Voice as well, that's a song where if I hear it on the radio, I'm like, oh, I'll pass. Or if someone covers it.
Yeah, you've got some really. I mean, there was a Facebook post that you posted.
Yeah. Well, I was bored. I was trying to stir the pot as well. I thought I'd get a bit of action on Facebook, but I'm just sick and tired of bands covering You're the Voice just when there's so many better Farnsey songs. But I understand why they do it. I mean, you're not going to cover like an obscure Farnsey track and everyone's like, I've never heard that song before. You're going to go with the big hit.
Man, imagine if someone covered like Age of Reason or something like that.
That'd be cool.
Oh.
That'd be awesome. And like, there's still so many.
Sadie the Cleaning Lady.
Oh. Yeah, look out.
Hey, you know,
coming to a Lord album near you. Oh.
Voyager did You're the Voice back on the Hailstorm
That's
tour.
It. Yeah, Simone had a jab at me. She's like, oh, all right, I guess we better. Because I think I said something like, anyone that covers You're the Voice needs to jump in the lake. She goes, oh, I guess we'll jump in the lake then. And I said, I'll give you some floaties or something like that. And she goes, oh, it's too late. I'm already drowning. I was like, oh, okay, sorry. But
we don't take things that seriously, don't worry.
No, but it's one of those things, and I just, especially recently, there's been quite a few bands, some metal bands doing it, and there's been some sort of Aussie indie artists that have been doing it as well and covering it live, and it's cool. It's just, I guess because I'm such a freak obsessive Farnsey fan, and I'm probably like in the minority, I just look and go, oh man, like you guys could have so done this song or this song or this song, and there's so many better songs. It's like, oh, You're the Voice again. Okay, all right. And so I think I heard...
it's just a guaranteed crowd pleaser.
It is. And I think...
As someone that plays covers, you know, as for income...
You've got to do it.
You're just like...
You have to do it. Well, I'll get to that as well in a moment, because that's quite interesting, and something that I've been fascinated about as well with doing the cover circuit. But, I think playing it live's one thing. I think that's okay. It's just when people are planning to sort of sit down and go, you know what, we're going to record a cover and go into the studio and smash a cover out. And I don't know. It's just one of those things that it grinds my gears.
Yeah.
And but I'm definitely in the minority, because every time a band like covers it, everyone goes nuts. So it's you'd be stupid not to do it, I guess. You know, it's a winning formula. You should go for the...
It is. They've pleased 400 other people, but pissed one
like
diehard Farnsey fan off. Mainly just you.
Yeah, that's
Even
it.
from the other side of the country.
Yeah, who's gonna just like make an angry Facebook post about it and just like have a bitch. But that's what we do. But,
you're passionate about it. It's good.
Oh, that's it. Oh, you got to be passionate about something. You know, B-side obscure Farnsey tracks. Yeah, that's how I roll.
You are like the underground black metal Farnsey fan. You're like, if you're not covering anything on Farnsey's first EP, then I don't give a fuck about
That's it. I didn't like anything past the first album. Yeah, the rest of it's he sold out.
Once you got commercial, it's rubbish.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Farnsey pre-countdown.
He's one of those guys that I'm not terribly interested in meeting people anymore. Like
you need to do a podcast with Farnsey.
I'd love to.
I feel like this is like Farnsey is the pinnacle of your guest ambitions for the Antisocial podcast. Well, it has to be.
I have this underlying feeling that I'm on a journey.
You absolutely are. And I get that feeling as well. And I feel like you're clocking people off. What was that old mate you had on not long ago? Tony, is that his name?
Oh, Tony Barber.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, no fucking way. Are you serious? Dude, you need to get Burjo on as well.
All right, done.
You need to get Burjo and then Johnny Farnham, man.
Yeah, John would be good.
You just have to quit though. Where
well,
do you go
that's
from
it. I'd have to aim for like a particular number episode, and that can be like whatever it is, 100, 200 or whatever it is, and they'll go, that's it. That's the end of. I'll start a new podcast after that. I'll do something else, whatever. But that'll be it. It'll be okay, guys. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. I've set out, achieved everything I've set out to strive for, and it's all been.
There's no need for me to be on the airwaves any longer.
That's it. My work here is done. But he's one of those guys where there's very few people. I mean, I've met a lot of people that I guess kind of idolized over the years, music wise and whatnot. I've been pretty lucky, but I've been quite desensitized to it, and I'm sure you've probably been the same with touring quite a bit as well, and being on the other side of the fence as being a musician and meeting people that are a fan of your music and you playing and whatnot. And you sort of really start to look at people very differently as far as musicians and people that have, I guess, in the past been idolized and put up on a pedestal. And so I've really gotten over going out of my way to meet people, famous people, like people that I've probably previously idolized, unless I've got something that's really constructive to say. If I go up to someone and say, oh, I really like your music, or, thank you so much for the music, I sort of get that feeling that you've heard that so many times before. They're almost desensitized to what you're saying. So I sort of don't, like, even last year when we did Prog Power, there was a lot of bands there that I probably a few years back, I probably would have really gone out of my way to track them down.
It's a whole other experience right there.
Yeah, and have a chat to them and whatnot. And then this year that I went, I just sort of went, oh, like, they're over there, and I walk past, go, hey, and that would be it. And there was no need to do it, but
it's because you're there on a professional basis.
I think so. I think that definitely adds to it. But
they're actually your peers now instead of your heroes.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
I did have an encounter that like that was a real spin out for me. It was when we supported Opeth in 2015, and basically Opeth had been my metal band since I was 14, I think, and just non-stop. Like, even to the point where I had to just almost stop listening to them because every guitar riff that I wrote just came out sounding Opethy. And it had just I just listened to them constantly. And it's funny the way visualization does really work, because I'd thought about the moment that I'd meet Mikhail Orkefeld.
Yep.
And I went to go see them I was 17 and they were playing in Perth, and I somehow managed to get in without an ID. Nice. I just bought a ticket because I'm like, I need to chance this. Yep. And I was like, I'm gonna get in, and I got in.
Nice.
And then I was like, okay, I've got to meet them, and I had some album covers I wanted them signed, and I saw them eating Hungry Jacks around the side of the venue. And I was like the only one. I was like, I need to, and as a fan, I need to step out and make this happen, because everyone's just kind of like, just hovering around the door like, oh, I don't want to be anything.
Yeah.
But what these people need is for someone to kind of take charge and like, hey, can you come over here?
Yeah.
And then, they came out and they were just kind of staring at all of us, looking back at them, just like, man, like sheep in their headlights or something like that, and a deer in the headlights. And so I was like, just started the conversation with them. And I met them another time after that as a fan, after their Watershed tour. And I was in a doom metal band at the time called Noctis.
Yeah.
And I wrote personalized notes to them and stuck them in our EP.
Yeah.
And gave them to each person.
Nice.
I'm like, man, just, it's all explained in there. Yeah. Just open it up. Never heard anything back, of course. Didn't expect to. But I was like, I gave Opeth my music. And that's the biggest gift you can give someone when you're doing this kind of stuff, when you're a musician. Then we finally come to 2015, and it's their they're in prog rock mode now, and I haven't been as dedicated a fan to them because I've just been listening to them nonstop for so long. But they're still my heroes, they're still my musical idols. And I went down after the show and just hung with them, and they were like it was amazing how the atmosphere was different because they knew that we were supporting them. We were a band.
Yeah.
I'm not like a fanboy coming down here and like, oh my God. I mean, I was internally, but I had a reason to be there.
Yeah.
And I actually sat down with Mike, and I actually had this discussion with him. I said, like, I know you hear this a lot, but it's just something I feel like I have to say because I've been listening to music since I was a teenager, and it's really helped me a lot. I mean, it's had a profound impact on me. And as I don't want to be a fanboy to you, but I would just feel like I need to say it's been great, man. It's like, just thanks very much. And he was just like, oh, it was really cool. Thank you. And I got some autographs. I got Martin Mendez to sign the back of my my Fender Jazz.
Nice.
Which I brought especially. And then, I kind of partied with him a bit after. Ironically, I met Sodomizer, per Sodomizer. He was their guitar tech, and he actually played in Bloodbath and Catatonia for a while. So I was like, holy shit, that's Sodomizer. And that was a fun conversation. Yeah.
That's cool.
Why do they call you Sodomizer?
Yeah. Don't ask.
I did ask. I'm not going to tell the answer.
No, that's all right.
I'll leave it in suspense.
That's right. Oh man, it's
But meeting your idols when you've got a reason to be there is a whole different thing, and it's quite an amazing thing because I could kind of check that off the bucket list, and those things are affirmations of what you're doing, because that it seldom happens, but you know what, like I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't stuck with live music and Voyager and doing it for so long, and all the shit shows that we've done around the world, the ones that have just been horrible.
You've done a few shit ones with us over the years, that's for sure.
There's been some, How is Club Led anyway?
Oh. I knew there was one show that was in the forefront of our minds.
You know when?
That was
when there's a guy dressed as, what's his name? King Diamond.
Ah, yes.
There's a stage manager dressed as King Diamond telling you to move your shit off the stage. You're like, oh my God, I just can't deal with this anymore.
Yeah, that was
at a bowls club.
That was definitely a rock bottom moment for a lot of people that night.
Yeah. I'm sure there was more than
than
a few people just shedding tears in the car.
That was not a good show. But I guess as you said, like, when you get to those moments where you get to interact with people that you probably 10 years ago would never expect to even be in the same room as, let alone be able to have a conversation with, or you hit certain pinnacles, or not pinnacles, but sort of milestones along the way where you get to play with amazing bands, or you get to tour different places around the world, you get to play these big stages, and there's sort of things that just make everything worth it. Every little step along the way, and
the prog powers of the When you're the prog powers of the when you guys play Hammer Sonic later on, you'll be like, holy shit, like it's just crazy.
Yeah,
dude, I was in the hotel there when we did Hammer Sonic, and I was going down, I think, to start our set, and this huge tattooed English bloke got in the lift with me, and I was like, man, this guy's like, he's massive. Yeah, like he's a huge dude, and you kind of just when you're generally sizing people up, they get into the elevator. And it's like, why do I know this guy? I mean, there's so many metal dudes just kind of walking around, and you can tell that they're out of place, right? So I later found it was Nicholas Barker from like Dimmu Borgir and Cradle of Filth, and he was there with Lockup, I think they were called.
Okay.
And I met him after. I was like, man, I thought that was you. But I never would have thought that, just when you're off with the fairies, you're like, I'm just catching an elevator down. Next minute, there's Nicholas Barker, who you can air drum all of his parts to like puritanical, euphoric misanthropia.
Oh, that's it, yeah.
And I met him, he's like, hello, yeah, it was good. It's just spun out. And they're really cool moments. They're really good.
And as you said, when you're on a bit more of a peer level where it's not that sort of band and fan sort of scenario, it's a completely different conversation. The guard's down a bit, and people just sort of I guess talk a bit more casually, and it's certainly, there's some surreal moments that you can have, and going back and then thinking about all the crap that you've had to trudge through to get to where you are, you sort of go, it's all worked out.
We're very lucky. We're very lucky to be able to travel the world in a way that you could never ever buy.
Yeah.
Probably a way that most people wouldn't want to buy, to be honest. When you're just you're not seeing much of the cities, but the city is opened up to you in a way that you will never get to experience if you're not in a band.
It's such a weird scenario because for me, totally, and it probably irritates me more now than it ever has before, where you're traveling somewhere and your majority of your time is made up of traveling, waiting, playing, traveling, waiting, playing, and you don't get a lot of time to have a look around. So especially if you're in a place for the first time, you're so blown away with just the fact that you're in this city or in this country, and then in the blink of an eye you're gone, and that irritates me. But at the same time, as you said, there's something that's so unique with, I guess, how a city or a country can open up themselves for you, being a crowd and playing in front of a crowd, where you're connecting with this city in such a unique way that most people would never do. So, and in some ways, I definitely prefer it to being your stock standard tourist.
Yeah.
You go to a place and as a tourist, you walk around, you blend in, and you take a few photos and a few selfies.
Yeah,
and
people are almost unhappy to see you. 'Cause
Yeah, that's
you're a
right.
fucking tourist.
It's I love New York or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But when you play a show, and you might not always get the chance to go and see all the landmarks and the sights and sounds of the city, but to be able to play on stage and connect with the locals is just incredible. And
Well, standing on, I mean, hopefully most of the people in the room want to see you there. And that's a pretty special thing. People have actually they've put on hold their life to come and see you, and it's a reciprocal arrangement. They're appreciating what you're giving them, and you're appreciating the fact that they're giving you something as well. They're giving you appreciation and praise, and
it's a unique social setting, really, because most people would never have that experience.
no,
So-
most people would be terrified of that experience.
Well, yes.
I've got friends, even my partner. She's like, I can't believe that you stand there and like in front of all those people all the time.
Did you ever have a
And
fear?
Sorry?
Did you ever have a fear of doing it?
Never.
Never? Just
I wanted to be an actor before music ever entered my life. Yeah, I wanted to be Jim Carrey. Yeah, and I still do. So, it's basically like the only time I've been nervous on stage is when I don't know kind of what's happening.
yeah, okay. You're not 100% prepared for whatever.
Yeah, but even still, now since I started doing cover work, there'll be like I'll go and do a gig on bass, something like that.
Yep.
And unless I've played with the person a few times before, I'll have no idea what song we're going to play. But I'm at a stage now in my musicianship where like I don't practice at all, really. I don't practice bass or anything, but I'm just so comfortable with my abilities that I can get through it. I can get through it.
You can pick it up.
Nothing's better than well rehearsed, like a well rehearsed band.
Yeah.
But for the case of like, I need to fill in last minute, can you play 3 sets? Yeah, sure. Just kind of let me look at your hands.
Yeah, that's it.
And that was a terrifying thing to begin with. But then once you get through kind of trial by fire a little bit, you're like, oh wow, no, I can do this. And then you realize how hard simple songs can be.
Yeah, well,
You're struggling with like a Paul Kelly song, and you're like, what? I play in a progressive like metal band. Why the fuck am I struggling with this?
and is that more of feel, or is it just some of these songs are just
Simplicity, man.
simplicity, just way too?
It's like G, 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 C, C, G, 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 D.
It's just so foreign to what you're used to.
Yeah. And like I never grew up listening to that kind of music
Yeah.
ever. So, yeah, which is really weird because again, like you'd go to Opeth and there's all these just bizarre, beautiful chords.
Yeah.
And you never strum a C chord really.
Yeah.
Or you only play power chords.
Yep.
Stuff like that. And you forget how to do stuff. Like it's funny because everyone, I noticed, and I used to do it as well, like everyone would really discount the covers guys and girls because they played generic stuff. But if you ask all of these tech guys, you know, people that are really, really seemingly proficient and playing a million notes, you just ask them to play like, you know, To Her Door or something like that, you know. And they can't, because there's a feel element to it. There's even just learning, like, the art of not playing is such a big thing. And I hate that, man. Like, I love filling space.
Yeah.
But it's just so important, especially as a bass player.
You probably would have learnt quite a bit, or even improved with your musicianship and just your approach to music, and then putting that back to Voyager or everything else that you do, just from, I guess, that simplicity or that space in music where there's just not a lot happening. It's just a couple of chords, and for a lot of these songs, the vocal line dominates a lot of the songs. So it probably, I can only assume, because I've never. No, I was just thinking, have I played a cover show before? No, I haven't. But I can only imagine if I was ever going to do it, I think my sort of my musicianship would probably broaden quite a bit, because you're exposed to so many different styles, and a lot of it's sort of pop and it's simplistic sort of music, I guess, to a degree, but it's still quite varied. And I think there'd be a lot of lessons learnt in playing sort of those stock standard songs that everybody knows. And
there's huge there's a huge advantage in that. And I went to a Billy Sheehan bass clinic actually years ago, and he said the same thing. He's like, man, just learn as many songs as you can, because you'll grow from it so much. And at the time, you know, like, yeah, well, you know, that's great advice, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to play that shit.
Yeah.
It's different when you're getting paid for it, but certainly for me, I normally do it alone, that was a huge lesson unto itself. It was like, I'm in my musical career, I've never stepped out there alone and had to carry the entire thing
for
made
3
you
hours,
want to
do that?
4 hours sometimes. Money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you doing duo stuff or sort of group cover stuff before you went to solo, or did you just dive straight in and start? I'll just give it a shot.
I'd been working in the insurance industry as a claims consultant for like 4.5 years, and I had like a mental breakdown pretty much. It was like I had a huge depressive break, and I was kind of like, I obviously left that, but you know, my depression and like anxiety was just through the roof, and I was just kind of trying to piece my life back together. And I'm like in this spot right now, like, well, what do I do? Like, I cannot, like, I'll have a panic attack if I have to answer another phone call, like, anytime soon. So what do I do? Like, okay, I just got to fall back on my talents, like my ear. Like, I can't read music, but I can play music pretty easily. And if I listen to it enough, I can get it. I can sing okay, so maybe I could just do that. And initially I started a little, like, I just tried to feel my way around doing stuff. I would love to have just done like session bass work. And then there was just nothing out there. It's just really who you know. And it was just a different scene that I was in. And so I just tried to, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to give this covers thing a go because I have to. And it was a really weird time because I joined a Rod Stewart tribute band, you know, like I learned all Rod Stewart tunes.
Wow.
And I met people through that I ended up doing more work for, and then I just started getting gigs on bass doing stuff, and I thought, well, I can get more money if I do solo performing. The tricky part then was like learning 50 tunes, like from scratch, guitar and vocals, because I need 3 sets, sometimes 4 40-minute sets.
It's a lot of music, especially when a lot of those songs are probably 3 minutes?
Yeah.
It's a lot of songs.
And then you've got me thinking, well, I hate all of these songs and I don't know what's popular. So what do I do? So then I tried to just look on the bright side of it. It was like, well, you know what? I'm not completely averse to pop music. I do like pop music and I like popular stuff. And there are some really cool popular stuff out there. So I just started to select songs that I felt were good, and I could make them. I can make it as challenging for myself as I need to. You know. So I learned stuff like, I started off, I think, with like Blink-182. I like Blink-182 from back in the day. Played that. Start off with In Excess, Never
Yep.
Tear Us Apart.
Yep.
Paul Dempsey does a wicked cover of that I nabbed. And then Don't Forget About Me.
Yep.
All these like 80s kind of classics. Some David Bowie. What are they called? The Beach Boys. Man, heaps of stuff. Lord. Not you, Lord. No one's ready for that yet.
No one's ready for that yet. Not at all.
Lord, Jeff Buckley.
Yeah.
And just really, it's just stuff that was just kind of, that was popular enough to get away with playing, but no one else was doing. And then you have to kind of learn some of the hits that people always want to play.
So you warmed to the fact.
I've warmed to it, but now I've become jaded because it's mainly just from playing alone.
Yeah.
I really get, I enjoy the gig, but the work kind of dries up a little bit every now and then, and going out and playing the same songs by myself, it's not nearly as exciting as playing with other people.
Yeah. Or you don't have that sort of energy of sort of bouncing off each other and sort of playing to each other if you're just by yourself. And I assume you've got some backing tracks or something like that maybe?
No,
you just pretty much just guitar and yourself?
Yeah, acoustic guitar, and then I'll do some looping stuff.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you do that, and then everyone's like, man, play some Ed Sheeran, or like, which you can. But you know what? The best part, what I want most is to find the balance between making myself happy as a prick musician that's really judgmental about stuff like this, and making a crowd happy. Because if the crowd's happy, then that's exactly why I'm there, and then I enjoy it. And that's where I've come to actually, like, I couldn't stand Paul Kelly. Now I'm slightly warming to him. And from playing To Her Door about 1,000 times,
you can,
like, man, this song's pretty cool. Like, everyone goes off whenever I play it.
And you can appreciate it. I mean, once you're actually physically playing a song, you understand a bit of the mechanics behind it. So I think there's more of a chance you're going to warm to something once you understand how it's structured and how it's put together, and obviously channeling the song through yourself as well makes a big difference. Is doing the covers pretty much your main source of income? Is that what you're doing now as a...
It was. I mean, I'm full-time now at a guitar shop.
Yep.
So music is just like, it's just everywhere in my life. And it's been an amazing thing. But I can feel myself, I really have to be careful because I'm become so hard to impress.
Yeah.
And stuff just doesn't get me going. Though, like, I don't have that fire anymore for when I'd be working at a job that didn't involve guitar, and I'd just be yearning to play so much. I'm just around all the time and everyone else is playing, and I mean it's awesome, but it's so strange, and I hate to complain about that because I'm literally like, if I'm getting paid to be around guitars, people dream about this. But it's just the passage of time. You just kind of can only hear so many riffs at the same time, and now like I actually found that like mixed martial arts and stuff like that has become a passion like music used to be.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
There you go. You're branching out. It's I think it's one of those things where once you're mentally telling yourself that you need to do this, or you're telling yourself that you have to do something because in this instance you're doing it to make money. You need to earn a living. Everything potentially, or there's a high chance that it's going to turn into some form of chore. It's an obligation that you have to meet, and so you can have your dream job, but your dream job can turn quite bland very quickly because you've interpreted it after a while that it's just something that you have to do. You have to go there. You have to do these things, and that's what I always feel. If I was able to earn money doing what I love, would I still love it? But I think it's finding that balance between it all, and I think you're probably on the right track as far as at least you're aware of it. I think that's probably more so than most people would understand. They would just constantly be dissatisfied with whatever situation they're in and constantly chasing the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, if I hated it, I wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's like it is the best job that I've ever had and could
Yeah.
have, because it's very relaxed and
surely better than where you were.
oh yeah,
when
there's no question. It's just it's just, I guess, mainly maybe a commentary from anyone that's worked in music retail that you just kind of, you go through feelings of that because you're around it so often, so it becomes less exciting. That's all there is to it. Thankfully, I still, like with Voyager, get to tour around and take time away from that, doing just the fun stuff. But it's, you know what, man, at the end of the day, it's like, if I'm making any money from any kind of art, that's the bullseye. And that's
pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing to get to that point where you're able to, people will actually put value not just on a feelings point of view, but from a monetary point of view, and put value behind what you do. And
that's very rare these days.
It's very rare. It's very rare.
And yeah, I mean, it's good. It's different when there's big venues and corporations that own pubs, and then they'll decide to put a value on the entertainment factor.
Yep.
But people really need to get used to valuing their work. Artists need to value their work highly, because a lot of, man, I don't know, we probably don't have time to start it in a whole music piracy thing, but everyone gets screwed over when people and artists don't value their work properly.
And I think it's going to come full circle again. I think there will be...
It's getting better. It's getting so much better.
It will. And I mean, yeah, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but I think people... It's a slow cycle, but I think people are starting to appreciate organic... what's the word? Something that's just, it's got that human element. It's genuine. There's been some creativity or some sort of hands-on input to create something. So even disregarding music altogether, a lot of, if you see cafes and bars and whatnot, the very rustic, industrial, handcrafted, handmade. Bespoke. Yes, it's very, very popular, and people really appreciate it, and people pay top dollar for that sort of stuff, because we've got to this point where everything's been so mass-produced, so plastic, so carbon copied, and it's very hard to get a sense of being an individual and having something that's unique and special. Everything's just been spat out at a very fast rate, at a very small cost. Everything's cheap as chips, and people lose the value and lose the meaning behind all of these things that are in our lives. So now people are putting so much more of a focus on handcrafted, genuine products, organic, all these sort of things that are a bit more sort of homegrown, and music's one of those things as well. I think people are starting to, I think now, especially with the ways that people can support bands as well, people are a lot more intentional about what they spend their money on, and bands have had to change the way that I mean, you guys are really good at doing that. I mean, you guys have done your crowdfunding thing, which a lot of people sort of don't like, but I think it's
good. It's a little bit different this time around in that it's just a
pre-order.
pre-order thing.
It's a pre-order thing.
It essentially is funding the album, but in a way it's like, well, you're going to get the album guaranteed now.
That's it. And I think it's amazing. And I think if you've got the crowd and you've got the fan base that will support it, then absolutely. And I think that's where your fans, and your fans are intentional, and they're intentional about what they like, and they will put money behind, and they'll put their support behind things that mean a lot to them. And as opposed to probably years ago, where you would have to go and buy an album from a CD, from a music store, and just take a punt and hope that the album's good, and that's it. Yeah. And then you probably get some pretty dismal purchases over the years. But look, I think it's coming around. I think it's it's
just people knowing about it. It's just so many people of even my family and my friends will be like, "Oh, cool. Oh, where's your stuff isn't on Spotify?" Or, "Oh, I downloaded your album the other day." And then you just kind of just talk to them, and they're like, "Wait, you make no money from that at all?" They just don't know.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, I just buy it directly from your website or buy it from at least somewhere that you'll get a little bit of money from.
That's it.
People just don't know.
No.
It's not that people don't want to pay the artist. It's like, oh shit. Well, Spotify is so convenient, but it's like
It doesn't.
there's
doesn't
no.
help.
Yeah, you're paying Mr. Spotify. What's his name?
Yeah, I don't know.
Can't remember.
It's
He's already a billionaire. He doesn't need any more money.
No.
What pisses me off is when I see like sales for Spotify or even Apple iTunes, where it's like $10 for 3 months worth of music subscription. Like, how?
Yeah.
Who's paying these people?
Yeah,
Who's
that's
paying
it.
the artists now?
How do you
Now you're just screwing everyone.
That's it. How do you split that $10 up amongst how much?
yeah.
How many hours of music are you going to
500 million ways. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible.
Oh my
But
God.
It's I think people are starting to get a bit more savvy about it, and probably the good thing about it is especially with the internet and being able to connect with so many people and find your niche audience. Like, you don't have to do that market. I'm always rambling about this, so people that are listening are just blocking their ears at the moment. But you don't have to do the blanket approach with marketing anymore. You don't have to do the big street press ads. You don't have to be on a major label anymore to find your audience. You can connect with people so much easier, and you don't need to think about, I need to sell 100,000 copies or 50,000 copies or whatever it is. I can survive as a band with a very niche audience who are absolutely intentional about supporting you, and you don't have to worry about that massive media sort of marketing approach to try and find as many people who are more or less majority of people out there. Well, I shouldn't say the majority of people, but a large amount of people out there are casual music listeners. They're not actively seeking out new music. They're listening to whatever's in front of them, whether that be radio or what's being thrown through their news feeds on social media or whatever it might be, or they're very impressionable by their friends. So with the internet, the benefit of that is that you don't spend as much time trying to win over those people anymore. So you've got more intentional fans that will make the investment for you, and you can find them a lot quicker. So I mean, years and years ago, we would try and spend all this money trying to reach as many people, and we're looking at numbers. We're just looking at numbers. We're trying to, what's the reach? However many people we can possibly reach. And then you would know deep down that 90% or 80% of those people don't care enough to go to your website or click a link or buy the album or go to a show or whatever it is, because you're spending so much money to try and reach people that just don't care.
Yeah.
They're just casual listeners. So there are benefits to some of these things that are out there. I don't think there's a lot of benefit to Spotify, to be honest. I mean, I think I don't know. I think sometimes those things can be good promotional tools in a way to get more exposure, but at the same time, I don't know. It's hard.
They are. You do have to. You have to spread yourself.
Yeah.
Pretty thin and over everything. But it's kind of like if you're fighting the good fight, you kind of sometimes you need to hold out. I feel like really want to hold out on these places, because what it does is it's forcing our fans to go, why the hell aren't you on Spotify? Or why the hell aren't you here?
Yeah.
And then we can give them the truth.
Yeah.
The truthful answer.
That's it.
Which is what. And then they, 99% of times they're like, oh man, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
That's it. It's a good way to spread the message without sort of bombarding them up front to say, preaching as to why you're not doing something. But people are actually coming to you to ask questions, and you're giving them the answer. So it's a great way to spread an important message. Absolutely.
Do you do any kind of like Patreon kind of thing for your podcast yet?
No, I've thought about it.
Or advertising or anything like that?
No. So I've got an affiliate thing with Amazon. So,
the code, right?
Yeah. So people can click on a link and just shop as per normal. I get a little bit of money from that, but it's bugger all. But no, I haven't done the sponsored thing yet. I've been a bit reluctant to do so.
Morally, or just from my perspective, like being a pretty regular listener to podcasts these days, I like when I hear the ads, I don't begrudge it at all. I'm
No.
like, man, totally. Fair enough. There's a lot of hours and work that goes into making it available.
I think it's how they do it as well. So some people are really good at doing their ads. Some people are absolutely horrible. They just pre-record and they play the same thing over and over again. But some people are really, really good. They'll wing it. They'll just talk about it and throw some jokes in there. Rogan does a really good job of
Bill Burr's
Bill Burr. Yeah, Bill Burr's really good.
Me undies.
Yeah, and that's cool. Like, yeah, absolutely. I'm on the same boat. I just don't know.
ZipRecruiter.com.
Yeah. Oh God, I know them all. Stamps.com. Yeah.
Stamps, yeah, and what's the loot crate?
Blue crate. Yeah. Blue apron.
On it.
Yeah. On it.
Human optimization.
The On It Academy in Austin, Texas. Yeah, I know them all. But
We shouldn't plug them without
no, we
getting
shouldn't.
paid.
Hey, what's going on?
Let's can we plug Michael's what is it, healthcare chemist?
Yeah, Michael's healthcare chemist.
In
North Perth.
North Perth. It's
Michael.
a free plug.
michaelschemist.com.au. Check it out. Get your discounted pills.
Look at this, up to 50% off prescriptions.
Ooh, there you go.
Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, there's some fine print under there. Yeah. Okay. So going back to the advertising, I just don't. I don't know. I haven't quite got to that yet. The Patreon thing is interesting, but I think that I probably need to get it to a bigger level where I'm probably investing a lot more time in the podcast and probably additional things around it to give it enough value where people will want to pledge to it. And it's also...
Does that mean you're going to have to start filming them as well?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Rogan style. Well, he's got an operation.
Well, he's got Jamie, doesn't he? He's
Yeah,
got
that's
that
it.
dude.
That's
the
it.
minion.
I need to recruit somebody.
The YouTube guy. I've often thought about that. I'm like, man, he just must hate being barked at. No, go back, Jamie,
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah,
go
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
He's like the one guy that can only operate YouTube. He's like the dude that won't let anyone else touch his computer at a party, but he's running the music.
That's it.
And everyone's coming up to him like, man, no, play that YouTube video where it's like...
He's a godsend. I'd be stoked to have somebody like that. Just there's a screen, just start talking about something. He's already pulled it up on the screen.
He must hate Joe Rogan, though.
Oh yeah.
He must loathe him
I wonder.
so much.
They do pretty well financially, so it'd be very interesting to see what sort of arrangement he's got with Rogan. I'm sure Rogan looks after him.
Oh, yeah.
because he's been. I think he's been with him since day dot, and they've been doing it for 7 or 8 years.
They've got separate studios. Like, it's not at his house or anything.
It's actually a studio. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's incredible. It's like such a cool setup.
It's amazing that that's capable.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. And I don't know, with my podcast and pardon me, I can't even talk now, monetizing it and whatnot, I'm probably at the moment, my view on the whole thing is that this is an awesome tool, almost like a promotional tool to promote everything else that's happening. So initially I sort of did it as a smart, well, in my mind, a smart way to sort of promote the band. But then I realized that I just didn't really feel like talking about the band at all. I'd throw it into conversation here and there, but it was sort of like an indirect way of promoting the band where I wasn't sort of doing the hard sell. I just reference the band every so often with people. And
Which band's that, Lord?
yes,
Lord?
Lord.net.au. Yes.
Is that Lord?
Lord, yes, Lord, yeah. Without the I,
Oh, okay.
without the E.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that Lord.
Yeah, that one. Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I'm in a similar boat to what you were a few years ago with sort of the corporate life and trying to work out what the hell are we here for? What do we want to do? Do we want to sort of look back years down the track and realize that we probably wasted a lot of time and we're doing things just purely to make money? And there's probably more to life than doing that. So for me, I've been really fascinated about people that are trying to break out of that and are really putting a focus into that sort of freelancing sort of lifestyle where you really got to hustle to try and make some money. But but the big message that it keeps getting repeated over and over again is that you can make money and it might involve getting out of your comfort zone, but there's always a way. There's always a way to do it, and you're never left high and dry. And as much as people will complain and whinge that they're hard done by and they can't get any work or they can't earn any money, and I appreciate that some people just get into a rut, I think, there's always a way to make some money somewhere. Some of us are a bit luckier than others, and some people have got some additional talents that they can lean on. But I think especially now with the internet and the way that we're connected globally,
It's never been easier.
it's never been easier to find work.
It's hard, but
It's hard.
never
It's
been
definitely
easier.
hard. But I think especially if you want to strive to live with more purpose, have more fulfillment in what you do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, shit, your job and just
Choose life.
That's right. You saying before about having this breakdown working in an office, I'm assuming you're doing 7.5 to 8 hours a day. Working
Yeah,
in the office. Yeah, over.
I just get swamped with phone calls that I'd have to. And you know what? I was doing too much work.
Yeah.
I was actually.
You were overachieving.
No, I wasn't overachieving.
Oh, okay.
I cared more than anyone, and
Yeah.
that was the problem.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I was raised to believe, was to, take pride in my work and care, and you got to do what's right. And I was doing what was right, and I was doing the best that I could, but in the end, that left me hours and hours after I should have gone home.
Yeah.
And I really should have just given minimal fucks and gotten out, checked in, checked out, just did the bare minimum, get me in, get me out, get the check, and then keep going. But while I wish I did that, I'm still kind of, on reflection, I'm glad that I still stayed true to what I believed was to be
Your
right.
principles, yeah. And I mean, it's just it's a long time to be.
Unhappy.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's for a lot of people, it's minimum 40 hours a week doing something you absolutely dread. A lot of people dread getting up in the morning to drive somewhere or catch public transport to go into an office and be around people that you've got nothing in common with. You're small talking through the day, which does your head in, like, oh, look, it's hump day Wednesday, or thank God it's Friday, or you walk past and the one that...
Working hard, Jim, or hardly working?
Or you walk past someone and you go, hey, how you going? And they reply back with, hey, how you going? And you go,
Yeah.
oh, what? Anyway, but...
The best one is, hi. And then the reply is, yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, it's painful. It's so painful. But I think...
Some people are completely adept at doing that, though.
Yeah.
They're totally fine.
That's it.
They're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm totally fine just working this job, doing it, and then enjoying the spare time outside of that. But it's just...
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's that weekend.
Such creative types.
Oh, yeah,
it just
that's right.
doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah. It's a weekend warrior mentality, where you work for the weekend. So, and especially, with generations before us as well. And we're probably one of the first generations, or the generations that's coming through now, feel so old saying that, where you don't have the same work ethics that our parents, our grandparents, great-grandparents had, because those prior generations didn't have a choice. If you got a job, you were lucky and you were privileged, and you held that in high regard. You were proud of what you did. Even if it was the shittest job in the world, you still held pride in it because it put food on the table. It kept you and your family going. But I guess now, because it's so different and there's so many different options out there, and people do have the luxury to pick or to choose their own destiny. But there's more options out there now. So you don't have to do the mundane, boring job. And for a lot of people out there, because they've grown up with these strong work ethics and these values, as far as, it's there as a mechanism to pay for the things that I love to do on the weekend or when I get home at night or whatever it is. And that works for them, and that's how they've been brought up, and it's fine. But I think more and more now you see so many people that want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be, internet sensations, YouTube stars.
Want to see my Lamborghini?
They want to do a podcast, or they want to do music, or whatever it is, and all the sort of different creative outlets that are out there. It's hard. It's harder in some ways because of things like piracy and whatnot. But it's never been easier as well to create and to connect with more people. And I think that sniff of the pie, so to speak, gets more and more people frustrated and dissatisfied in their normal 9-to-5 jobs, and a lot more people are sort of trying to break free. So I'm really fascinated by it, because it's sort of something that I mean, I've done it from day dot. I've always negotiated with the boss, or when I first started, I'll go for an interview and go, oh, by the way, I play in a band. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun chat.
Hey, so I'm going to need some time off, or I've actually got a bunch of shows coming up in the next few months, so I'm going to need like the next 7 Fridays off, or I'm going to be away for 2 weeks in a few months' time. Is that okay? And you can see them sort of going, like moving in their seat, going, oh, I don't like the sound of this guy. And it's just been an over and over thing over the years that you just have to deal with, and it was just a part of life. But it's certainly got to a point over the last couple of years where you go, you know what, it's done its job, it's served its purpose, but there's definitely opportunity out there for something that's a bit more fulfilling, that you're not only earning money, which is important, but you're doing something that connects to you, and it drives you and gives you some sort of sense of purpose and fulfillment.
It's all very nice, isn't it? It's all very nice it's completely the first world perspective.
It is.
When we kind of like hash it out, I'm just sitting here thinking, yeah, man, that's exactly right. But fuck, we're so self-absorbed. Sometimes we're trapped in this bubble.
Yeah, that's
I just think to, when I've gone to Southeast Asia and there's people splitting coconuts open, that's their job, and they can't go, yeah, but I play in this band and I really I just don't vibe with this coconut splitting constantly, like 23 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I'm not really getting fulfillment out of this coconut.
When I was working in this insurance company, not going to give them a plug. When I was working back after hours in this empty office, there was one of the cleaners would come around and empty the bins and stuff, and I got chatting to him, and his name's Alvaro, and he was from South America, and he's a mathematician. He was a maths teacher,
Wow.
high school maths teacher, but his English wasn't so great, so he's like, man, he's like, I chatted to him so many times, and he was like a fascinating guy and so lovely, just so humble, and just really happy to be in Australia, even if it was emptying bins. But you could see it getting to him. He's like, I've tried to apply for these other positions, and my English isn't good enough, and I failed the English test, and it's just shocking. I worked at McDonald's. My second job was at McDonald's. The cleaner there, he was a registered accountant in Malaysia.
Yeah.
But he was a McDonald's cleaner here.
Yeah.
And there's all these amazingly talented, smart individuals that get just swept under the rug because of their English might not be so good, or their English isn't as good as someone else's. That's why we can't. Racism is fucked.
Yes. That's a rabbit hole in itself there.
Yeah, I don't want to get into it, but
no.
it's
100%, and I think it definitely gives a lot of perspective, especially when we get swept up in our own lives.
Oh my God, yeah.
And,
I'm like, oh man, I'm staying back again. This is, I have to write all this stuff out. I'm not going to meet my KPIs, or I met the KPIs, but I'm going to get dragged into a meeting, and here's this poor bastard emptying my bin.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's smarter than I am.
Yeah.
But man, it's just.
Well, I guess the big.
It's important to stay humble. I think.
That's it. Oh, well, it's
hard to. It's hard to a lot of the time, but.
Well, the ongoing challenge for me is always the whole gratitude thing, and being grateful for right here, right now, where I am, what I'm doing, and not always thinking about what I don't have, like just thinking about what I have. And that's a very hard thing to do. And I think it's probably a really hard thing to do for a lot of people in probably the Western world.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
You're always looking for the next thing to obtain or try to achieve.
The capitalist world.
Oh yeah. And I'm a sucker for it. I'm always dissatisfied with something in life, and I'm trying to get to the next thing, and then before I know it, and it's the old saying, you don't know what you got till it's gone. So when you lose, maybe it's a job or a relationship or something that you own, and it goes, and then you go, oh shit, that was actually really good. That was a really good thing in my life, and it's gone now.
That was my last copy of Whispering Jack. What the fuck?
That's right. I got rid of them all. And it's really hard. It's hard to stay grounded and stay in the moment. And that's, oh man, it's something that I'm constantly trying to sort of practice a lot more, but it's really difficult. It's a really difficult thing because you always, I think that it's definitely an ego thing, but you want to be able to, I think for a lot of people in the Western world anyway, you are self-absorbed to the degree that when you get to your deathbed, you want to be able to say that you've done something and that you've left your mark and that you've left a legacy or something that you won't be forgotten. You won't just turn to ash or just sink back into the earth and be completely erased from history, which we all will eventually anyway. But it's just one thing that I think it stresses a lot of people out because you're constantly thinking, I've got to do something. I've got to make a name for myself. I've got to prove to people that I'm doing something amazing. Or, if I have kids, then you want the kids to think that, look up to you and go, oh, my father or grandfather is amazing and he's done all these amazing things. And it's such a weird thing. It's such a weird thing. And at times, hopefully it becomes more frequent, but on the rare occasion I sit there and I go, you know what? None of it matters at all. None of it matters. I think if you can be a good person on the base level, be good to everyone around you and practice, just good habits and be kind to people.
Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. That's pretty much it, really. Because everything else...
That's the prerequisite.
Yeah,
I feel.
Definitely. And everything else that you achieve and you do is a bonus and it's fantastic. But in the end, we're nothing after we go. And I think people stress themselves out way too much. Way too much. So there's a bit of flip perspective on wanting to get out of the cubicle and make a name for myself.
Breaking out one cubicle at a time.
All right, so I don't know what the time is. Well,
It's pretty much for you. I think it's about 4:30 in the morning.
fuck.
Because it's 12:24 a.m. here.
Yes.
On Saturday morning in Perth.
Yeah, so I got in at about 9 o'clock and I completely forgot. I was aware of the time difference, but I just did not register whatsoever. And then I went, oh, that's right. I'm now 3 hours behind. Huh, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm
But
surprised.
your body isn't.
No, not at all. Not at all. So I'm surprised I'm still going. But,
Should we get you off to bed, mister?
Oh, thank you. Tuck me in.
Tuck you in.
Before we
Part
wrap it
2
up.
of the podcast from Andy's hotel room.
That's right. Before we wrap it up, given got a new album, you've made a lot of changes over the last few years, still, you're becoming bitter and jaded in your cover gig, you're working in the music store, and, life's obviously moving in multiple directions.
I'm getting married in a couple of weeks.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks, man.
Oh, wow. Okay, so lots of things are happening.
Yeah.
5 years from now, where do you see yourself? Where would you like to see yourself? And I know this could be a rabbit hole in itself, but you can answer it as briefly or as in depth as you like. But given everything that's happening at the moment, and it's quite a bit happening.
At any moment in my life, I think whenever I've thought about that question, it's always I just want to be happy.
Yep.
Like that's really it. Earning lots and lots of money is great, but it's not what drives me.
Yep.
And actually, in 5 years, what I want to be, I just want to be completely fulfilled artistically and fiscally comfortable and stable.
Fulfilled artistically, is there anything in mind in particular?
Yes, I need to release my solo EP.
Yeah.
Once and for all.
Cool.
There's just setback after setback with that, but that should be coming out this year. And I would just like to get into acting a little bit more.
Nice.
I think maybe study it, get into it somehow, because I really feel it's kind of like that's what first got me into the arts, is just wanting to act and perform.
Nice.
In ways that aren't musical. And music is just, it's the polar opposite for me, because I was acting all through high school and I had the lead role in year 12. Yep. And I just started to really not like it anymore because it was so fake. Music is just so raw and so original, and it's like you're shunned for not being yourself.
Yep.
Who you are.
Yeah.
Acting is completely different.
Yeah.
But I feel like, like I would have given, I'll be 30 at the end of next year, and I've given all of my 20s to music wholeheartedly. And it'd be cool to go back and revisit my first love. But if my hands got cut off, what would I do?
Yeah.
If I couldn't play music anymore, I'd paint. I'd find something to do. There's always, I feel like a lot of people get hung up on one instrument, one facet of music, but really I see it as a creative side internally, and we just kind of choose which medium we want to express that through. For us, it's the bass guitar, and that's kind of what it has been by default.
Yep.
But now, even seeing it with you, it's like you're exercising your other your muscles in your creative side. Yeah, you haven't got an instrument on you apart from a microphone, and it's just coming from within. Yeah. So that's where I'd like to be. I'd just like to be. What gets me down is that I'm not living up to my full potential.
Yep.
Basically, so
That's cool.
I want to be having a high artistic output whilst not being broke.
I like the sound of that. That's quite good.
I think it's achievable.
Very cool. We'll have to talk more because it sounds very interesting and similar. Probably not exactly the same, but very similar paths. I think you might be a couple of steps ahead of me in some certain aspects, but I'm certainly looking in a similar direction in the future. So it'd be interesting to see where we end up.
We're just two, dudes trying to make it in the world.
We're just two dudes just waiting for the chemist to open to get my 50%.
I get told I look like you a lot.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna.
Do you get that?
Well, not so much anymore. When you had your long hair, definitely.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore. So I only saw it in a couple of photos.
There's definitely a couple where I've gone, holy shit, that's me. Oh wait, no, it's Andy. What the hell? Yeah, it was bizarre.
Yeah.
There's one of me in Brooklyn, and actually people were commenting, what the hell's Andy doing there? Yeah. It's like, no, that's me.
I'll take that, yeah. Just hanging out.
Prog Power?
Yeah.
Man, you look like Andy from Lord.
Yes. Awesome.
Someone actually at Prog Power said, I think it was Prog Power, somewhere told me I look like the guy that plays Slayer on the banjo.
Oh.
Do you know that guy?
Yeah.
And I look at it because I love doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Like I live for it.
Yeah.
And I'm that crazy guy that's always like, man, that guy looks exactly like Hugh Grant. And then the person talking to me, we're like, what the fuck? No, he doesn't. But I can see it. I can see these things. I love doppelgangers.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, that's certainly happened over the years. I don't think it happens so much now that you've got rid of the locks.
Ship.
Yeah, but don't worry, I won't be far off either. So
I'm trying to hold on to it now.
Well, yeah. I've got a naturally fucking gigantic forehead, but it's gonna go eventually. But I'm definitely thinking about that mullet first.
Yeah, get the mullet in.
Even if
we could go some skullets. We could do it together. We could go Devon Townsend circa 1999.
That's it. Well, it could be another facet of your creativity, and it could open up some very unique roles as well. Some niche roles that not a lot of people can fill. So who knows? There could be some opportunities that come from it as well. Not just that personal fulfillment.
Maybe even divorce.
That's right. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up.
Yep.
But thank you very much for having a late night with me. And
I'm sorry the surroundings couldn't be a little bit more
majestic.
It's been
good. I've been watching the cockroaches run across the car park, and I think I saw a little mouse that was running along the bottom of that fire exit door over there. And
there's a glassing victim lying in a pool of blood over there as well.
Yeah,
That's nice.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Bless him.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Whispering once again from my hotel room here in Perth. I'll wrap this up very quickly. So thank you so much. As said at the start of the episode, if you do enjoy this particular episode, please reach out to Alex and let him know what you think. You can pre-order their new album, Go Smile, through pledgemusic.com/projects/Voyager, I believe. Yes, that's it. So you can go and pre-order the album there. They're going to be on tour soon as well across Australia, and they're doing some stuff. I think they're playing Prog Power in Europe as well, and there's probably a whole bunch of other things that I've completely missed as well. But you can go to facebook.com/Voyager Australia, or you can go to Voyager-Australia.com, or you can just search for Voyager on Google. You'll find a million different things, but all the links will be on the show notes. I'll put a few video clips in there as well. They've got some amazing video clips, and just a massive fan of the band. So I strongly recommend you guys check it out, especially the new video, Ascension. That's really cool as well. Okay, very quickly before I wrap it up, rate and review on iTunes. That'd be amazing if you can do that. Otherwise, just share these links around, tag some friends in, and spread the word. I'm really looking forward to the future episodes. I'm here on a weekend of podcasting in Perth, so I've got quite a number of people lined up. So hopefully that all happens, and I'll have several weeks of Perth-related podcast episodes for you guys. So I'm really looking forward to what's to come. So anyway, guys, take care, and I'll be back next week with another episode. Bye-bye.